On multifamily, yeah, yeah. Actually, that's a they say you always have to have a niche in what you do, and if you tout yourself and build a marketing strategy, and you're already good at that stuff because I see the way you create your marketing, your marketing products on the apartment investing journey, right? Like your marketing material is pretty sound. So I think you get the concept of branding and marketing. If you brand and market yourself as the investor's agent, right, and you come up with a cool tag phrase related to that, it doesn't mean that you don't get other business. You get other business as a function of being that, but that's kind of your bread and butter, you know? Yeah. Hmm. Assets. Right, right. And as goofy as oh, no, no, no. I would say be very specific. The reason you want to be very specific is because you want people to, your name should come up when it's something related to that. Oh, investment real estate in Utah? I don't know what city you live in, but investment real estate in Utah? Oh, you got to call this guy, right? And that's how it was for, now, interestingly, Dave, I sold the business in January 2019. We're in what, June 2020. I'm still getting business from the people that either think I'm still involved in property management, but I've created a know in that market. Right now, Manchester, New Hampshire is a small market. I'm assuming Utah, wherever you live, is similar in size. Maybe not. Population, what are we talking population wise? Okay, so you're larger than we were. Um, okay, so larger in size, which is greater opportunity. Are there a lot of players in the market there as far as property management? Okay, so you're about the same size as I was then, right? So yeah, same community size, maybe a tad bit bigger, but as far as because I expanded into the greater Boston area too. It was my region, right? So I had a lot of people out there, but I had a niche. My niche was out-of-state owners that own investment real estate in Manchester that wanted the building operationally managed, and that's it's important to know operationally as opposed to hey, manage my reserve budget, run my building like an HOA. That wasn't my game. My game was you want to run an operationally sound building where money comes in, I do the best job on the operations side, and then the net NOI, net proceeds, boom, gets sent to you at the end of the month. Really quick, really swift, transactional, right? But recurring transactional. Yeah, so the difference with HOA is you're managing the reserves, right? So I'm walking the community, and I'm saying, hey, it looks like in 3 years, based on the life expectancy of this roof, when this roof was replaced, based on weather conditions, based on an engineering analysis, this roof is going to fail in the 3 year mark. Based on that, we need to start building up your capital reserves so that we can do that enhancement, that capital project, right? There's a lot of planning, there's a lot of funding, there's a lot of sitting down with people and managing it. I didn't do that. That wasn't my game. My game was a component fails, it's replaced. And my job was to facilitate the most cost-effective solution for that. And I made a delta margin on that. And my clients knew that. And they had the option to say, if you owned the property and I was managing it, you had the option to say, you know what, Francis, I'm not going to use you because you have a 20% margin on all your maintenance. All right, Dave, go ahead. Go ahead and fly down from Utah, fly down to Manchester or Boston, get a rental car, drive up to Manchester, go to the Home Depot, pick it up and deliver it and install it yourself. Right? I mean, it sounds obnoxious, but that was my approach, right? I was operationally, that's the offering I gave, and people appreciated that because they didn't want all that other stuff. Their model was, listen, I'll manage my own capital reserves, I'll manage my own savings, I'll do all that. If my roof needs to be replaced, I'll fund it for you, right? Just get me the best roofer. That's, yeah. Sure. I'm going to say this, and I guarantee you no one else is going to tell you this, right? Because they're going to get into operational stuff. I'm going to say this. Yourself and your unclarity, and I don't mean this as in this is where you're at, but not being clear on what you want to do, right? Like if you're not clear and if you don't know what your USP, you know what USP is, right? Unique selling position. If you don't know what your USP is, you don't know what you're coming to market with, and you don't know what your systems are, like how everything sort of holistically works, as far as Dave the family guy, Dave the real estate agent, Dave the podcaster, Dave the guy who wants to be an investor, and Dave the property manager. If you can't figure all that, if those aren't in this nice little holistic system, something is going to give. Either your brain's going to go, you know, your family's going, yeah. So I would say, I mean, as goofy as this sounds, Dave, it's almost like you have to crawl into like a dark room, right, with yourself and only yourself, and you sit there like freaking Buddha, and you say, give me, you know, universe, give me, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I've got all these things. I want to be a real estate investor and I want to build up a portfolio. I want to continue the apartment investing journey because that gives me access to the right people with the right, you know, like you just said, the smart people. I want to continue conducting real estate because that's my bread and butter right now. I want to still have time with my kids and their you know, sports. So, and then you emerge out of that, whether it's 2 days, 1 day, 3 days, whatever it is, right? And you emerge with a clearly implementable, realistic plan. That's, I mean, honestly, that's going to be the biggest, I think that's the biggest success point for you. But if it's not done right, I think that's almost the biggest failure point too. And I would spend time developing what those are. Like if it's property management, okay, what are the systems of property management? Because if you, and you go through the common things. So what happens in property management? Someone says, hey, Dave, I want to hire you. If you're sitting at that point trying to figure out, oh shit, how do I engage this guy? Like, how do I give him a management contract? Okay, I'll get an attorney to draw it up. Okay, so then how do I engage his building? Do I walk his building? Do I meet each and every one of his tenants? How do I get their rent roll? Then how do I add it onto my software? What if they call and there's a maintenance issue? Like, you have to sit in that dark room and figure all the... actually, you don't have to figure that out in the dark room. You have to figure out what you want to do. And then based on what you want to do, then you figure out all the process. So there's a few needed steps to go through before you venture out and just become this, you know? It's almost like you want to do a soft launch in your friend circle and start saying, hey guys, this is what's going on. And you start sort of justifying it and hearing people's responses. And that way you'll be able to better respond to it. Like, hey, how much do you charge, Dave? Right? Like, you want to be able to have a quick response to that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as you're answering that, I'm gonna give you little mini responses, right? The response is absolutely you can, like absolutely you should and you can, right? Think of it like you know what the inside of a watch looks like? It's got all those wheels and cogs and stuff like that. There's one big wheel in there, right? And that one big wheel, you know what I mean? Like with the little cogs on it, that one big wheel is responsible for moving all the other parts, right? So if you focus on the little wheel and you try to spin it, it's really hard to spin that to get the big one to. You're better off focusing on the big wheel, saying, "Hey, I'm going to move this because when I move this as a function of moving this, all the other pieces in my holistic system that I designed in my dark room are all going to move sort of concurrently." You know? Not yet, not yet. I see a little transference in that wheel, right? So right now your big wheel is real estate, right? But you're changing your modus operandi of that real estate agent based on the new wheel that you want to replace it with down the road, right? So you're playing the role of agent, but the way you speak, the way you present yourself, the way your marketing material is, which you're already good at anyway, but the way you present yourself is all in the world of agent for the investor. And I'm just coming up with terms, but agent for the investor, or your investment real estate solution, your investment real estate agent, whatever the term you come up with, is got to be sort of in that world. And then at the right time, as you build up, that wheel can switch. Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely, Dave. That's actually what I do. I mean, I help people sort of build, and when I do it, so I'll give you an example of three sessions that I've done: one in Boston, one in New York City, and one here in Buffalo, right? I start off with a 2-day boot camp, and it doesn't have to be that way, but I start off with a 2-day boot camp, which is basically that dark room, right? And I give you the pre-work that you have to do in the dark room. And then we do a 2-day boot camp where we're building your marketing message, your property management company, all the systems. Basically every single system that you want to do, we're going to build it. Like from the way you move a tenant in, the way you sign a management contract, the way you engage a tenant, engage an owner, the way you, the systems, the process checklist, we build it from ground up. Essentially in 2 days, you have a turnkey solution. That's the intent of what I do. Now, based on your individual situation, we could do that over a month. We could do it in 2 days. I mean, it depends on how you want to go with it, but absolutely we can. Now, one other thing I want you to think about, right, is if there are competitors, and we can dive into that when you get to that stage, if there are a lot of competitors and your USP, you're struggling with your USP, right, which is, well, what am I going to just build another property management company and start competing? I have some solutions for that. Like, that's completely game changing. That will build the way your revenue stream based on something else that's not just oh yeah, I charge a function of a percentage of gross collected rent. It's a completely different model, you know. And I'll clue you into what it is so you can start thinking about it. It's based on NOI, right? So this is where you are true to the word of being, hey, I'm a real estate, I'm a realtor for the investor, right? And your messaging could be, I'm a real estate agent for the investor, because when I manage your property, I don't just manage it like every other property manager where I'm just charging you, gross collected rent, and I love to do maintenance and make it this huge markup on maintenance and huge markup on leasing and all that, right? Where I nickel and dime you on everything. I participate in your success and I charge you as a function of the NOI, net operating income. Right? Now people are like, holy geez, that's kind of unique, because most people just nickel and dime me for everything, right? So it's just a way, it's a different way to sort of USP yourself. Honestly, David, I'm not the salesy guy, like, right? Like, my thing is, hey, we'll sit down, right? Figure out what you want to do, and then we'll come up with something that's palatable. That works for you, right? And we'll sit down and I'll give you some ideas of what I've charged other clients, and I'll say, hey, David, let's do this. I'll fly down to Utah. I'll spend 2 days with you. We'll build it from ground up. Here's an associated cost. And then we'll do a thing, monthly, where I meet with you and we do a once a month just sort of status check, and then we focus on the growth side of it. And we could do it multiple different ways. Oh, of course. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. It was a pleasure. Pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. Everything going good? Everything going good with the podcast? Okay, good. Right, right. Mm-hmm. And nor should it be, right? But by automatically being what you are, you sort of, the only thing you have to do is sort of stitch it all together, like bring all these different worlds that you have that may be a tad bit disconnected, and I'm speaking without knowing you enough, right? But they may be a little bit disconnected, is bring them all and sort of sew them together, so people are like, oh, he does this, which moves that, which ultimately, creates this, you know? Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Oh, awesome, man. Glad to have helped. I can talk about this stuff all day long, man. It excites me. So definitely glad to have helped. I appreciate your. Okay, you take care, man. Have a great weekend.